What's up, Kansas City? I'm Serenity. Today we have Jizzno, aka Jeanette and Ezhno, Kansas City's favorite poetry couple. How you guys doing?
I'm super good.
All right. So Jeanette's actually been on the network before. Guess we can start off with just a little update of the last time you came in. It's been about a year, and a lot can change in a year. So
I got a puppy.
right.
I moved to a farm. Been working on publishing some books. Got married to Ezhno, the
How were this at the
abomination.
wedding?
And still just performing as much as I can and loving the scene.
Right. I know you kind of took a break from performing, kind of a little bit, right?
Yeah, I had a moment of extreme self-doubt, and I just took that and decided to take time for myself and really put my head together about what was the purpose of my poetry, what was my real skill, what did I really want to say, and just really spent really the whole summer just doing that, which was a great thing.
And chopping off your hair.
Well, actually I emceed a Riot Girl show, and so I had the audience cut off all my hair on stage. So that was pretty awesome, and some people wouldn't do it. People take their hair very seriously, but it was a good time.
So you're the general manager at the Art Bar, and you're also over a series called Pop Poetry.
Right.
Why don't you tell us about that?
Pop Poetry is sponsored by Prospero's Bookstore and is an imprint of Spartan Press, so that's our publisher, Spartan Press. But what the point is I just watch so many people in Kansas City who are stars of the Kansas City scene. They do so much for the community, but they get no love back because none of us are in this academic setting that has a printing system in place. And so what I decided to do with Jason Reberg, of course, him and I were drinking and put this idea together, is to publish 12 poets in 12 months. So we just finished November, we're putting out the December book now, and that's going to be 12. And so we even opened it up to the next year, we're going to do 12 more next year.
Okay. Speaking of books, Ezhno, isn't your book in here?
Yeah, it was the second one from the top. Beautiful and abominable.
All right. Ezhno, why don't you give us a little background about you and how you got into poetry?
Oh God.
Yeah, pull your thing back.
I started writing poetry in the 4th grade. I started writing period fiction, which was my love until academia just sucked all the joy out of me writing fiction and nonfiction. But I started writing kindergarten, and in 4th grade I wrote a poem about the Long Island Sound. And I guess, I can't remember what they called it. It was the best in the class, right? And so, like most people, I like succeeding and I like praise and I like being the center of attention. Maybe I like being the center of attention more than most. And so I just kept writing. Yeah, I don't know. It's not like there was any great inspiration. It was just what I did because, no one wanted to talk to me. So I just stood there writing all day.
So what is your background with poetry? Like, didn't you major in journalism or
Okay, so
okay.
My first year I went to Missouri and I was a J major. I got kicked out of the journalism program for screaming that there's no such thing as objectivity in journalism at the intro professor. She didn't appreciate that, and I didn't appreciate her trying to feed me that line of bull that there's, just the facts, man, about anything. And then I got kicked out of school for putting a lighter up to my friend's peephole and telling him there was a fire out in the hallway. He was very drunk and he got stuck in the window. And so, yeah, I got kicked out of school for that. And then I went to Iowa. I was able to go to Iowa because of connections that my brother's godfather, Thomas Moran, God rest his soul, had. And I was a fiction major. And I loved it until I got into the top level fiction program. And I won't out the people involved, but I thought they were hacks. I thought that they were much better technically than they were at being storytellers, which is the whole point of making art. So
yeah, especially in fiction.
Yeah, like someone actually wrote the story. I graduated from high school and I stole my parents' Volvo and I drove as far as Vermont. I was trying to make it to Canada before I found, myself, the power inside myself to face all obstacles. And I drove home and they were so happy to see me. And you know.
Wow. Yeah.
So anyway, I was like, I can't do this crap. And so I started writing poetry almost exclusively at that point because it didn't feel tainted to me. And I've never really stopped. You know, I think that it was a blessing in a way because my fluidity of language lends itself more to poetry than it does to fiction. And, you know, I'm incoherent, as you've noticed. So. 2-3 pages tops, and it's maybe time to move on to something else with a new title.
And you got a short attention span. Like, yeah, like I think the longest poem I have is 3.5 minutes. So I'm like, I'm not long-winded with writing either.
Mm-hmm.
So you also do books for other people?
I do. It started because as soon as this came out, like, you know, I had 50 poems that got turned into 12 that made it to the book, and I was like, well, you know, there's a lot of these like sad drinking poems that I really, really love that I want to get out there. Yeah, and I'm also addicted to attention, so I was like, I got to start selling I got to come up with a new book, and I pushed it out in a day and taught myself graphic design and how to make it happen in a book, and like, you know, how to arrange the pages and whatnot. And I said, well, I want to keep doing this, you know. I want to help other people not only get a book out, but learn how to do it themselves. You know, I mean, this costs $1.50 to make. It's printed on the paper that comes in between, you know, layers of beer in a case. So that's pretty easy to source.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And also, as you can see, like, well, the audience isn't going to be able to see, but it creates a nice sepia tone when you just print in black and white. So, it's just to get people to stop putting their stop trying to sell the milk after they're giving the cow away for free, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't put your poems up online if you want people to take you seriously as an artist. It's good to share, but why would they pay for stuff they've already seen, right? So, I mean, there's no reason why you can't spend 3 hours, pick a couple poems, put them together in a book, and that way when, you know, you're out in the community and you're traveling, you have something for people to take home with them. You know, the point of, you know, books and, you know, CDs and all this stuff isn't so that you can have more notoriety today. It's so that somebody can stumble into you 6 weeks, 6 months, 600 years in the future, and there's still a tangible thing that they can have and have a relationship with you that just, maybe it'll still be online in 600 years or whatever, but you're not going to be able to have that same, right? And it's cheap, and also, I don't know, I'm going on forever, but with these, you got to get at least 100. You can ask me, hey, Ezhno, I need 3 more books, and I can do it in like an hour, you know?
So how did you two come together?
We're the most talented poets in Kansas City. We realized it instantly.
I saw him at a poetry reading, and I thought, God, his face is so weird. I could really draw that well. And so I drew pictures.
A lot of people don't know that you also. Well, so I know, and
Yeah.
some people do know. People who don't know, you're also an artist. You draw.
Yeah.
And you make paintings.
I do. And so I started drawing him right there at that open mic. And then he got up on stage and started doing his poetry, and I was like, wow. He's so talented, but he is completely full of shit. I don't believe one word that he just said, none of it.
It was
And
during the
that was a
period
match made in heaven, right?
So where did the nicknames come from? The Alien and Abomination. Did I just came up with that yourselves, or?
It's,
Pretty much.
yeah, it's reality.
I feel like an alien all the time, walking around. Like, I feel like I should be in a costume and looking at you, nimbly bimbly, and like then the inside matches the outside, and everybody knows what to expect. So I've called myself an alien for many, many years. And then when we first started writing poetry together, he says to me, "Hey, I have abominable snowman disease." I was like, "What's that mean?" He goes,
It means when I walk in the room, everyone goes, "What the fuck is that?"
and so that's how he became the abomination.
I hope we have an editing function.
I actually, you know what? It just popped in my mind. You know what I want to see? The two of you guys host something together. I know Ezhno hosts the the third?
It's second Wednesdays
Second
at the
Wednesday.
Uptown Arts Bar. That's 1811 or 1611.
3611.
3611 Broadway.
You talk. Whatever.
But I'm just saying that would be kind of. I would want to see you guys host.
Yeah, I don't
something
think
together.
we ever have.
You
those.
we
haven't?
have.
I haven't?
We
What?
hosted once because Bill was pretending to be sick or something like that. I'm sorry, I don't have a filter.
Okay, Bill, I'm not in that.
Sometimes you get so high you can't find your keys and you just go, screw it, I'm gonna call in sick.
Once again, I'm not in that.
All opinions spoken by Ezhno are the sole responsibility of the Ezhno.
Right.
I say that about 6 times a day.
So you guys sometimes write poems together. Like how many
Yeah.
poems you guys have together? All together?
Whole performances.
Yeah.
We design performances to events and sit and construct the entire thing. If I had to just offhand say it, 30 or 40, and that's not even counting what
Wow.
we edit each other's work constantly.
Yeah.
And so it's not even counting that kind of editing together.
Yeah.
You guys are defying the myth that poets can actually be together. Because usually they say, 2 poets, no, you can't do that.
Well, as I said, we're the most talented poets in Kansas City, so, you know,
Well,
we make exceptions.
you guys also brought some people with you too.
Oh, yes, we did.
It's not a Jizzno situation unless there's a surprise. And we're so happy to have Books and Shovels crew. They're a traveling bookstore. And they also are masters of DIY publishing, artists themselves. And so it's just a really unique thing. They always stop by in Kansas City and talk with Ezhno and I and pick up books from what we're doing. And we get some books from around the country.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just want to pop in and say hi to those guys too.
Yeah, we're going to pop in there and talk to them.
I'm Jeanette Powers with the Publishers Takeover Moment. We've got Ezhno Martin with EMP Press, me with Pop Poetry through Spartan Press, and we have surprise guests, Jeremiah Walton and Nico Ford with Books and Shovels here to talk to you about some of the really exciting things that are happening coast to coast. Jeremiah, what is Books and Shovels?
It's a traveling bookstore. We kicked off at the New York City Poetry Festival last year and have been bopping around the country since. We distribute independent literature and classics to promote 21st century writers. It's all donation based.
Excellent. So pop-up bookstore. What kind of places do you go to with this?
Open mics, slams, festivals, street corners, events we coordinate, just pretty much wherever we can.
And will you introduce us to your crew?
This is Nico Ford, James Mulroy, and Dan Hapgood. I grew up with Dan, and these cats we met out in Tucson, Arizona earlier this year while we were passing through, and we just started doing shows together and making things happen, and now we're on the road.
And so you also do publishing. Talk to us about what you do there.
Books and Shovels is like a project of a small press called Nostrovia that myself and this Bay Area poet Christopher Morgan co-manage. And we publish like chapbooks and an e-zine called Fuck Art, Let's Dance. Again, all donation based, and we kind of like branch out and sink our teeth into whatever we feel like kind of putting together.
Oh, please, what's your website?
Books and Shovels and Nostrovia Poetry both are on, if you just Google Nostrovia, Nostrovia, you'll find Nostrovia Poetry. It's www.nostrovia2writing.com.
I don't think anyone's going to remember that, but that's okay.
Hey, this is it.
All right, thank you.
I'm Serenity, reminding you to spit your piece and make sure you check out all these people's websites. They are so dope. Make sure you check out any episodes on whatsupkansascity.net.